Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ignacio Fonts. I'm managing partner at Inveready, and we take artificial intelligence very seriously. It's a very important part of our investment thesis. I have the pleasure today to have been able to assemble a panel that comes from very different perspectives of the artificial intelligence world. So they're going to be able to enlighten us about how it is their business is helping to introduce and monetize this technology. We've decided to make it very practical instead of talking about how artificial intelligence is going to change the world. I'm going to let through the questions that our fellow CEOs explain us how the particular companies are changing the world through AIO and the challenges that they've experienced. And to do that, the best would be if they quickly introduce themselves, they tell us what their companies are doing and how are they using technology, how they're using AI, which particular discipline of AI are they building up in their solutions. So, Mauricio, please, if you want to start.
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Maurizio. I'm founder and CEO of Hutoma. So, we have a platform to create and eventually commercialize chatbots. And we are much more focused on enabling companies and developers to create chatbots from unstructured data. So instead of manually building this intents or this conversation, we ingest unstructured content like documents, PDF, and then eventually we're able to create a chatbot off of this data. Mm-hmm. And then because we actually, 99% of the company comes from, we are all developers, so we know the pain of commercializing what you build. Then we have a way for developers on our platform to take the, whatever they created and commercialize it and sell it to other developers. So it's basically follow developers through the very first step of creating a bot to the very last step of commercializing it.
Thank you.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Ryan McGinnis. I'm the VP of Marketing at Voysis. We're a voice AI platform. So the easiest way to think about that is we make it really easy for brands to add voice natively into their websites and mobile apps. The way we do that is we ingest in retail and e-commerce, specifically their product catalog and their data set, their search history. So someone could come to a retailer's website or a brand and ask for something that they're looking for using natural language and be able to get the results much faster and hopefully get them to the cart a lot quicker. So we're using technology to basically streamline that consumer experience so that it's much more contextualized and personalized for the user.
Thank you. Richard.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm from Pixoneye. My name is Richard Jones, and I'm the Chief Commercial Officer there. And at Pixoneye, we realized that probably the most powerful data set that exists on an individual level is actually sitting in your pocket right now. So in your pockets, you'll have smartphones. And on your smartphones, you will have literally thousands of images. So we've created the technology using AI to basically understand key characteristics from your photos, given who you are today in terms of your, who you are, whether you're like my case, a male, got a kid who's 2 years old, so haven't slept for about 2 years, a big football fan, but also we can predict key life events that are forthcoming, such as moving home, etc. So this data is incredibly powerful to brands and also research companies to understand who the customers are so they can actually use that data to actually personalize the experience.
Great. And David, finally.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm David MARIMON, CEO and co-founder of Catchoom. What we do is we help businesses develop their platforms in a way that we help their consumers take faster and better shopping decisions. So it's primarily focused on e-commerce. And what we do is we have a number of things: image recognition, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence. And specifically to artificial intelligence, what we provide is a mechanism to take a picture on a fashion e-commerce website and produce the entire description. So catalog it, so categorize it, and produce deep descriptions of all its attributes automatically.
Good. Great. So you see, we have a couple of instances of image recognition, one of our voice recognition, bot development, very diverse. Some of them have, it is somehow common when you develop a new technology that enables other technologies that you commercialize it as a platform. And that's the path, for example, that David has used to go to market. So David, can you tell us a little bit about the challenges or advantages of commercializing your technology as a platform for other businesses?
So we started as a horizontal platform, so pretty much a software as a service with an API and SDKs for any industry to use it. So primarily connecting the physical world with the digital world. Now the benefit of a platform or being very horizontal is that you get the eyes of the analysts, so the Gartners of the world mention you and you're ranked very high. Actually, you also attract the eyes of the OEMs or the big players, right? I would say the challenge that comes with a platform is that it is much more difficult to attack a niche and market towards that niche. So explaining the use cases, because it's so broad, poses its challenges. So when you're working with inbound and you're trying to target different sectors, that creates some monetization challenges.
Ryan, any quick word about your platform experience?
Sure. So I think for us, we've actually had success with the platform as a technology. We started as a horizontal platform, and when we raised money last year, we were kind of called or dubbed the Stripe or Twilio, but for voice.
Yeah.
And we realized really hard that it was, we realized really easily that it was hard to make vertical specific solutions as a platform. It's really hard to say you have somebody in media and entertainment, you have somebody in retail, all wanting different things, and if you take a SaaS model, it's hard to be able to make each one of them successful. So we realized really quickly we needed to focus on one, and we chose retail and e-commerce. Okay. So we've actually gone very niche and very specific because we wanted to be able to build a domain and brand specific solution for those brands and get those right, and then be able to work our way into different verticals. So our platform approach has been, we own the full voice stack end to end from speech to text all the way to the NLP and the NLU, and then the text to speech end of it. We own that platform, but being able to use that platform to build very specific solutions for these companies.
Good. Mauricio is building a different kind of platform. It's actually a marketplace for bots. So tell us a little bit about how you successful.
Sure. So I think if you look at the sort of chatbot space, there are two main problems. There are really two annoying problems. The first one is that it's very hard to build conversations because it's manual, you're pseudocoding. And the other problem is that often, more than not, you have to build things from scratch. And there are components and an aspect of a chatbot they must be common. So for us, they're like libraries. So chatbots are the equivalent of libraries in the coding world, like Visual Studio or whatever. And the reason why we choose the marketplace route is because we believe it enables other people to build on top of others' efforts. And we're like a big believer in independent platform and allowing developers to leverage each other's effort. And hopefully, one day, something interesting will come up from the community.
Yeah. But platforms are not the only way to go to market. Maybe Richard can comment a little bit about the challenges in general of bringing technology to market, and what kind of selling motions are you using more, the ones that have worked the best for you, and the ones that have been demonstrated to be more challenging?
Yeah. So we've been commercializing really for the last year in particular, and we have key categories in terms of financial services, so working with retail banks, insurance companies, also within, say, research companies as well. And I suppose the one thing to note that's probably core is that AI is it's a buzzword. It's something that from the C-level down, you have C-level saying, we need to do more AI. So you typically then are working with bigger businesses. You have to then have companies who can actually understand what you're doing. So when you're approaching a business, and they may be, have been told we need to go and maybe shop for some new AI, they've got a very innovative business in front of them, can they actually understand and communicate within their own organization the benefits of what we do? So we've had to kind of create a slightly new process as to how we start these conversations and who we're talking to. And I think there's been some quite interesting studies around companies in particular who are basically geared up for that. At the top, typically have financial services businesses. They're obviously through a period of massive flux, particularly retail banking and insurance. So when you can start to find these sorts of categories where there's opportunities, you can have the conversations, you've got to work out a process that is very easy for them to actually work with you, so you have the highest chance of success and ultimately delivering your product.
Okay. Anybody want to add in terms of go-to-market challenges?
Yeah, I'll start. So I guess one of the hardest parts of going to market with a product that is considered emerging tech is that a lot of companies back their way into product market fit, right? They find the technology first and they build the team, and then they say, who is best ready for this technology? And that's the wrong way to do it. We've realized that there's a lot of education that needs to go into trying to bring a kind of product like Voice to market. And what we found most successful is really trying to foster that community. So everything that Amazon and Alexa are doing is great for us with Voice, but then we're hosting meetups, we're trying to get out there in the market, we're trying to educate retailers, we're trying to actually be able to plug into the problems that people have today. It's not like VR or AR where you're trying to predict what the world's going to look like in 20 years. You're trying to find problems that retailers and brands, specifically for us, are facing today, whether that's retention, loyalty, just being able to convert users better, and then being able to input your technology into those problems to help solve that a lot faster. So we're actually being able to find our go-to-market strategy lies into plugging into solutions that they're probably looking for today, as opposed to future selling them on a technology that they think might be in a different path for them moving forward.
Good.
I wanted to add to that. So actually, we find two kinds. So if you apply a technology to a consumer-facing application, then a lot of evangelization is needed. So for instance, for augmented reality, that still happens. And we have been working on this for more than 10 years. Whereas for the fashion e-commerce solution that we have, because it's a productivity issue, we can enable, we can tap directly into the processes. And the challenges are different because then it means integrating into an existing process, changing some bits here and there. But it's no longer about evangelization because the problem exists, the pain is real, and then it's much easier to have a conversation about the value proposition.
Good.
Yeah, just want to add that I recognize some of the problems Richard mentioned when you talk about AI to customers, and I blame Hollywood for the most part. Because you see this AI that you can talk to, you can fall in love with, but that's general AI, and we are far from there. What we build is really narrow AI, and often you need to educate people that these are tools that are specific to an aspect that you want to solve. It's not going to become your friend. And on the go-to-market strategy, what we have been learning so far is that one of the key things is to really side with the customer and understand what can you build to make them successful. And so that's one of the key things we do. So listen, and help them be successful with the things you build.
Good.
Maybe add one more point as well there, which is, we see it very much like a journey. So you're not selling something off the shelf. Typically, it's not something they've engaged with before. So if we're going to sell a bottle of water, everyone understands it, everyone's consumed it, and so forth. When you're selling, a computer vision and machine learning stack that represents the future, it's a lot for someone to actually overcome and start to understand how to buy it. So I think the most important thing that we've found success is around what we call like a three-phase POC, if you like. So breaking it down into very, very simple steps. So offer them the most simple, frictionless, no-regret move they simply can't say no to, then start to scale through. And then with that as well, because they need to, I always say an understanding process doesn't happen overnight. It's a period of attrition. So the more time they have the chance to actually engage with it, and the more opportunity you have to have other senior people from within the business and other stakeholders to come in and join that conversation, actually the application can suddenly start to move. So in terms of your core stack, you're not having an impact on your actual stack, but the application, the use case for the business is very interesting. So I'd say that a combination of baby steps and sort of commitment to the journey, and give them the chance to be educated and evolve with you as well.
Good. You were telling us before, Richard, that AI is becoming like a buzzword, right? You can, as a VC, I can tell you, I cannot go through a pitch today without maybe the third sentence with another company will already talking to me about how they use AI or deep learning for this or on that. So maybe you can help us understand, how do you tell your VCs that your AI is different than your technology is different than somebody else, or how do you explain your customers that your technology is really different than the one of your competitors? How do you differentiate? David, you want to start?
Sure. I would say I'm more interested in the conversation with the customers than with the VCs. Sorry about that.
Thank you, David.
So actually, I can mention, so last week I was meeting a customer in a roadshow in the Netherlands, a potential customer actually, and the reality came to us because they showed us the results of a competitor, right? And we were showing, so we demonstrated our solution, and then they showed what another competitor was showing to them, and the difference was huge, luckily for us. But the thing is that and this has happened a long time ago when we were selling our solution. Until you reach the market and until you sell it, you don't really know if you fit the expectations and if you're above and beyond the others. So of course it's nice to have benchmarks, but I think you will agree with me that with computer vision technology vendors, it's difficult to benchmark unless you basically sneak in and do a test. So having somebody like the customer saying you are actually superior and it actually works all the time, that's how great your technology can be.
It's always the best way.
I think I was going to say, I completely agree. You know, VCs are phenomenally important in providing us with the oxygen to carry out our dreams and deliver them to markets. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to demonstrate that it works. Okay, so as much as time as a VC might conduct doing due diligence and analyzing code and so forth, the most important thing is that conversation with the client, demonstrating A, that it works, B, this market fit, and there's value actually to the consumer for us at the end of the day.
So how do you build a test bed to demonstrate that it works?
Yeah, so the way that we've been doing this, we've been running a series of different, basically proof of concepts with retail banks, insurance companies, research companies, and a few others. And also mobility, so car companies, because they're also moving significantly. I think recently one car company came out and said, we're no longer a car manufacturer, we're a software business. So we've seen that huge shift. So really it is around giving them the chance to integrate our SDK, start to analyze people, and maybe it might be a user base within a controlled environment, could be a sandbox environment. And by what that I mean, literally, it's no risk. It's just an opportunity to run the analysis. We could, second phase might be around, once we've got that user understanding, is to test that data in a live environment. So actually, it could be through simple A/B test, pushing out a notification or an email campaign to show that with the Pixoneye data, you've actually talking to your customers more effectively and engagement rates are higher. And the third phase is my most favorite one. Once we've moved through both phase 1 and phase 2, is let's build something with you. So let's actually create a database to look for particular characteristics about individuals or to predict particularly key life events that are of phenomenal value to the business, which are potentially really life-changing for them in terms of driving incredible engagement or sales.
Good. Ryan?
Sure. So obviously, also agree with both you guys. I think for us, it comes down to three things, and I call them the 3 T's. So it's team. Why are you guys the best people to build this solution for us? Who's on your team? What makes you guys and your team the best to solve that problem? Then it's technology. What do you have that no one else in the market has, and how are you differentiated? And then the third is traction. So when you talk to a lot of customers, the first thing that they ask you, or potential customers, is who else is using your platform, or where can I turn to see something like this in the wild? And so a lot of it has to come down to what that partnership is. Like Richard said, we do a lot of proof of concepts, and for us, it's really about trying to better understand what the customer wants. It's not just, like you were talking about a general AI that you can talk to and then fall in love with. It is something that is very specific to your brand and is solving an immediate problem for you. So we want to better understand what those success metrics look like, because if you don't know how you're measuring success, you don't know what success looks like of a partnership with us. So that's kind of how we think about that with customers.
Done.
Yeah, and I think they've basically hit all the points I want to hit. Yeah. But I think there's a difference when you pitch to a VC versus a customer. Typically with a VC, you have a pitch deck and you go through in details, and that's your job. With the customer, what I found is that you have different pitches depending on where you are in the selling cycle. You have one pitch when you approach them, you have pitch changes when you're in the demo phase, changes again when you're trying to close the deal. And it also changes depending on who you're talking to. If you talk to like an innovation department, your pitch is different. So I think that's one of the differences that I see. With VC, it's not easy, but the process is standard. Yeah. With the customers, it's a bit fuzzy. And I think you have to adapt to understand who you're talking to and how you pitch it.
It's interesting. You're not leaving maybe a lot of hope for the companies who may be raising capital here and don't have yet a big customer success, right? Because you're saying the only way to demonstrate the technology is if you've sold it to somebody versus talking about the merits of the technology itself a little bit in abstract, no?
Yeah, but I think for want to be startup or so I was there even 2 years ago. So you remember we had no technology. I think it's a combination of passion for what you're doing, having the right people and in place, and that I think gives some confidence to the VCs that yes, they don't have what they have, but they have great passion and ability to execute on that.
Good.
I don't think you have to have customers to raise money, but it will help if you do, yeah.
Passion.
I was going to say a kick-ass demo also helps.
Good. Thank you. Another thing that AI is known for is this debate about whether it's going to replace all the jobs in the world or not. On the contrary, it will create some other ones. So before we get into that in the debate, a little bit, tell me about how you believe if the market is ready for the technologies you're bringing to market or not, or you're finding that you're still in evangelization mode. How is the market ready for the different disciplines that you bring to market? For example, bots.
Yeah, I think the market is getting ready for bot. The problem with the chatbot space is that there's a lot of smokes and lots of companies that claim they're doing chatbot, and so the problem is trying to help companies go to navigate to that. But whether or not a company should start looking into AI, in our case in chatbot, that's definitely a yes. It will change the way the company execute, and it will differentiate between the company that will survive from the company that will die. But yeah, so there's a bit of, at least in my space, a bit of smoke you have to clear.
So in which area of the innovation curve you think you are?
I think in general AI is going up in general, and so the chatbot. The problem with chatbot is that we are where browser were in the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you have to have a vision to understand where is it going to go and drive there.
Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I think with voice, this is really the year where a lot of voice companies are going to start to take off, right? I think last year was the year that everybody started to pay attention to voice, but it wasn't until this year with Amazon's success, Google becoming more successful, rumors that Facebook is going to have their own tablet coming to market. I think that now a lot of brands in particular are paying attention to this. I also think that there's a lot more metrics around consumer usage and actually what they want to use this for. I think at the beginning it seemed like a great thing for your bathroom. It seemed like a great thing to listen to music, play the weather, or listen to ask what the weather is, set reminders, all of those great things. But in terms of real utility, in terms of how it can make your life easier from a shopping standpoint, or at least trying to get the answers you're looking for, this is really the year that brands are open to ways that they can leverage voice to have a say in that. So for us, I think we did all of the heavy lifting, trying to educate the market kind of last year and then this year, and then I think you'll see Q2 through the rest of the year, really an insurgence of brands that are open to adopting voice.
And it's interesting that you're bringing the case, not that all the GAFAs are getting into this. Is business good or bad? Are you doing all the heavy lifting during these years, and now they come in, and will they take it all, or will they leave room for you guys?
I think it's a good thing, right? I think if you're talking about market validation, any time that you can say that the big brands are playing in the same market as you, it's a good thing. And I think that there's an opportunity for an independent player, especially in voice, which is where we stand. So if you want to trust those big brands with your data, if you want to trust them to interact with your customers, go ahead. But if you're looking for an alternative, an independent alternative to something like Alexa that you can turn on, we want to be that company for you.
Is the market ready for image recognition for...
Yeah, let me just make a macro comment first, if I may, which I think is there's clearly been an AI race that's been going on for a long time, and I think two of the key components of that to deliver it. Firstly, obviously, the data and the computational power of what exists. Pixoneye partly stems out of the fact that there's incredible on-device technology. All of our analysis actually takes place on the phone. So photos don't leave the phone. All it is data. So we're in the process of educating the market around how it's not actually an individual looking at the photos, rather it's a machine. So an individual looks at images, they feel emotions, they see the people, they see the event. A machine just sees a load of data. So clearly, in the consumer's land, I think the most important thing is when the test for me will be when you're in a bar, in a nice, a nice warm bar with a fire in London, as opposed to a cold, snowy bar in Barcelona we were last night. But where somebody says, "This happened to me today. This is what happened, and this was phenomenal, and it saved me time, it saved my money, and it's enriching my life." And we're getting very, very close to that. We're coming to a tipping point on that. I think, again, from a kind of a macro view, zooming out, one of the challenges has been, though, there's been a huge acquisition of talent going across the market. There's maybe been a lack of supply of people who can actually deliver the technology. So I'd say that right now there's a very unique moment where we're about to hit a tipping point when suddenly AI becomes incredibly valuable to what we do, and in particular the consumers are craving it, and they're going to be saying to the big brands, right, what are you doing? How are you improving my life? I want you to save me time, save my money, enrich my life.
Thank you. Thoughts, David?
So I believe with any new technology, what happens is that the customer probably doesn't even realize that something is possible, that the machine can do something that they believed they had to continue doing humans. So in our particular case, in terms of like the hype or the hype cycle, I would say it would enter productivity immediately because we are tapping into an existing process that is done by people that could be done by machines much more efficiently and in a much deeper way. Okay, so I think that in our case, in terms of whether we cut costs, it's a direct cost that we cut, but we can also create opportunities because in the particular case of fashion e-commerce, by providing deeper descriptions, we can allow search engine optimization to increase. So that means more sales turn into more production of articles and therefore more delivery of those articles. So there's one thing compensates the other.
So let's deep dive a little bit more on that. No, you are creating jobs, Mauricio, or you destroying jobs?
So I think in general, what I want to say is that what's happening with chatbots in particular, AI, or artificial intelligence in general, I think it's probably the best thing that could have happened to us. And let me explain that. If you look at the GDP, historical GDP, that has been flat forever, up until a point where you had a spike. And that was the moment where we had the Industrial Revolution. It's true that the Industrial Revolution cut some jobs and horses were no longer interesting. But now I can go to London, from London to New York in 4 hours. So we are much better off right now. And I think what's happening with AI right now, this is Industrial Revolution number 2, when machine, instead of taking physical job off of humans, are taking some of the brain jobs. And I think that will help us focus on things that are more interesting. It's like, who wants to sit in a call center responding to questions 8 hours a day? I think it will help us, refocus our skills on something we do better, which is like creativity. And someone says that we're going to be able to do jobs that are inefficient, like research, because machine won't typically do that. And so, yes, with chatbots, you're cutting some job, but really you're repurposing people. So, for example, in the company we work with, I work a lot with call centers, for example, and you can see that people changes from being call center to being a bot designer, because then they can basically teach the machine what they usually do. So yes, some jobs are going, but new are coming, and I think this is going to be good for us.
Good. Ryan.
Yeah, so in our world, we're not cutting any jobs. We're actually empowering the heads of digital, heads of innovation, those who kind of own the strategy for the company to have more data to know how they can better deliver a great experience for their customers. When you ask for something with your voice, the company gets all of that data to say, is this a product we currently have today? Is this something that we have, but the way that we offer it isn't recognizable by the customer? I think the way we've been trained to type into search bars is very different than how we talk, and very different how we tell our friends and family we want something for a birthday or whatnot. So for us, we're actually not cutting jobs. We're empowering those to do better of their jobs. But I do see a world, obviously, supply chain management, you look at customer service and chat. But I think a lot of those are complementary with chat. I think sometimes you still want to talk to a person, but it's helpful for that person to have as much context about you as possible. And if you think about voice today, we have the ability to ask for the weather, but some people still watch the Weather Channel and get the news on TV. So I don't think it's going to be one or the other. I think these are all complementary based on the experience you're looking for and where you are in that context.
What about you?
Yeah, Pixoneye also, we're providing a unique data set to our clients so they can provide a better service to their customers. So we're certainly fitting within the empowerment category. I think, though, if you think, on a more sort of, again, a broader level, it is also around, we're looking to generate wealth for everybody here in terms of it's better revenue for the business, or it's a better product for the customer. And then there's a consideration there to the corporate is how they can change the experience in general for the consumer. And even if we're all aware of big brands such as Apple who have fairly revolutionized the way in which they deal with their consumers on a day-to-day, So I'd like to see it more, not in the negative sense, but the opportunity from which everyone can evolve, the way that consumers integrate and engage with their brands on a daily basis, how they buy, how they go and shop, and also how the corporates actually deploy the additional revenues they're making in society, perhaps even for the greater good. And I think we've seen some great philanthropy, some great digital companies in the last few years. So I'd certainly like to see that sort of approach driven through society to the benefit of all.
Good. Good. So you're kind of a conservative set of people here. No, everything is evolutionary, and it's going to be good for everyone, which I guess is the way it's going to be. But have you thought, guys, that maybe somebody's thinking about taking your jobs out? So what technologies will replace the ones that you bring into the market today?
Yeah, so I really hope that the machine will take my job so I can go on vacation, actually. But yeah, I think you'll reach a point where computers will take tasks with those jobs, but I'm sure there will always be a place for us like 50 years or 100 years from now, and I'm not too worried about that at the moment. But there are people likely that are worrying about these type of problems. Like OpenAI is one example of organization is looking into making AI, fair and to helping people building good AI versus bad AI. So losing jobs, I see that as an evolution. If a machine will take my job, then it means I can do something more interesting than maybe a repetitive task. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally resonate with that. I'd rather be in one of these islands that the previous speaker was showing. But I think that the ethics of AI have to be there in the sense that if we let machines learn things that in our society are wrong, they will basically do it and do it much faster. So they will just make it explode. So we have to apply some ethics, and we have to learn them what the real values are.
That's very, very, very true. So on that very high note, we may wrap it up here. Thank you very much, all of you, for your contribution, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.